Thank you so much. It's really an honor and privilege. Thank you to Key Ministry. And I felt like I already knew Beth from all the emails. But to come here in person and see the excellence and the commitment and all the details and all the care for us to get the maximum and really strengthen our ministry, it's really amazing. Thank you so much. It's extra special for me to share from this stage because actually you guys and your country led the example of how the Albanian church was rebuilt after communism in the last 30 years. So to be able to be here and share what we have learned after we learned from you, it's really amazing. For those that don't know, Albania is in Eastern Europe. You probably know Italy. If you can imagine with me the boot, and in the east side of Italy, at the same line with the hill, right across the Adriatic Sea, it's Albania. It's part of the Balkans and the Eastern Europe. When Zechariah had a vision of the throne of God, we see it at chapter 4, he says that he saw 2 olive trees at the throne of God, standing before the Lord of the earth. And we know from Revelation 11 that one of them was Moses. So 1 out of 2 anointed people standing before the Lord of the earth, we know had a speech impairment. God is building his church, and it's going to be an inclusive one. So I'm so glad to be part of this ministry and of this work of building churches that are inclusive. I'm Orada Kita, you can call me Ada. And this is my family. I chose nice looking pictures. The boys are double the size now. Oh, sorry, I was seeing it there. And that's my husband, Altin, who is our senior pastor at ICF Tirana. And Martin and Rubin are our boys. They're 18 and 14. And back in 2007, when Altin was building a team and casting a vision for this new church that we wanted to build to reach the new generation, I was working full-time at the bank and helping Altin's sister cope with the news of having Jonathan, her son, born with Down syndrome. I was trying to translate information for her, try to find resources and services, and it was very difficult. But as I was translating what was available in West, I was shocked to see that you guys were discussing inclusion, education, employment, and we were actually trying to keep Jonathan alive. We were told he won't talk, he won't walk, he will basically do nothing. And every time he was rushed to the emergency, the answer of the doctors to my sister-in-law was, maybe this is it and you will have an easy life from now on. But her love and how she wanted to have him, and not only have him alive, but really see him grow. It was really inspiring, and it kind of was the engine that I wanted to do something and support her. And actually, I won't go into many details. We have today a ministry that is named after Jonathan, the Jonathan Center. It started in November 2008. This is our first parents group. And the rest is history of God's grace and love for the kids with Down syndrome, their families, and kids with other diagnoses since the pandemic. But I want to stop at 3 takeaways during this session for you as you go back to strengthen and establish or even start a new disability ministry. One of the challenges that we had when we started was actually encouraging and comforting the parents and the moms facing a reality with lack of resources and support. It was really painful and discouraging. But you know, I thought, except Jonathan's mom, the rest of the moms didn't know Jesus. So I was thinking, if I could only have them open their heart to Jesus, know that there is a God who loves them, loves their child, has a plan for them, and He's sovereign at His throne, no matter what happened in their situation, then everything will be solved. This is what I was thinking. We are in the church making, so we want to share the gospel, and that's going to solve everything. As I was eager to learn more and more, in 2014 I attended a conference like this in California, but most of the attendees were parents of children with a disability, and of course they were all Christians. So I'm going there to learn so I can go back home and fix everything. I'm sitting with parents, chatting, trying to understand. And it was eye-opening to me to see that those conversations were not much different from the conversations I was having with our moms, sharing when they got the news. The battles of inclusion, getting them in a mainstream education program or accessing everywhere that they wanted their child to be part of. And I understood that the hurt of your child hurting, of discrimination, of exclusion, of stigma, as much as it differentiated in cultural and beliefs, it was at the same intensity across cultures and communities. Parents heard it deeply. So my first takeaway for you is when you go back and review your strategic plans or build new programs, please make sure that the parents are involved and are a significant part of those programs and plans that you build when you build the special needs services at your church, organization, or wherever you are working. A few months ago, I got a call from a friend of mine, and she was troubled. Albania is very small. We all know what everyone does in a way. So she calls me and she said, this young couple, friends of her, just had a baby with a special need for an immediate intervention that wasn't provided in the country at the quality that would give the needed result. So they needed to go outside of the country and they needed $30,000 to do the intervention. And I'm like, I don't have $30,000. We provide all the services for free at the Jonathan Center, and we struggle with caring for one more child. But then I stopped and I was like, why don't you talk to your church leadership? I mean, your church has been double the history of ours, is double the size. Why don't you talk to them? Because basically we're going to do the same thing. We're going to talk to our congregation, ask people, friends, ministry partners that we know, and I'm sure you can probably get a better result. I'll never forget her reply. She said, well, they did, but they didn't want to set a precedent. Friends, keep advocating for your families about changing policies in governmental institutions, but be aware that probably the biggest advocacy that needs to be done, it should be at your church. Because this is what church is about. It's a family. I mean, we set precedent for people being saved, you know? That's the mission of the church. And for people being served and helped. So when it comes to advocacy, my takeaway will be the place where you need to advocate the first and the most might be your church. I mean, the fact that you're here, you might be blessed with a church that supports the families with a disability, but it's always a new challenge, a new need, and you really need to get your church on board. And we've talked these 2 days how important it is to get the senior leadership on board. And the third and last takeaway that I want to share, and I want to close with this, is by reminding all of us what the angel said to Zechariah. No matter if you want to grow your current ministry, you want to start something new, take that next step that God is stirring your heart for. The first time that God started to stir my heart for the Jonathan Center it was March 2007. And if you remember, we had our first parents' meeting in November 2008, so it took some months. And I was like, God, I'm working full-time because my husband is full-time in ministry, and I have 2 little kids. I have no time, I have no money, there's no way I can do this. I'm sure there are other people who can do it. If you want me to do this, you have to provide time and money, and especially the expertise, so we can provide the right services. I did, and sometimes with this tone of voice, like very frustrated, why am I stirred for this? But after almost 8 months, we started the first parents group, and today, in the past 15 years, we have supported with services over 300 families, and we have brightened the day of many young adults with Night to Shine for the last 6 years now. So take that next step that God is stirring in your heart. The angel told Zechariah, who can despise the humble beginnings? So just start, and don't wait for it to be completely perfect and ready. It's really amazing what God can do when you take your step in faith. Thank you so much.